All right, welcome everybody to another edition of Fans Talk TNA. Fans Talk TNA is a short conversation about what's going on in the world of TNA and Impact Wrestling, and you can join the discussion exclusively on TNAMecca.com. My name is Garvin. I'm once again joined by Nick. Say hello, Nick.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Now, we're both from Fans Talk Wrestling, so you can check out the FTWpodcast.com for more about us and the other things that we do. On this episode, we finish off 2014 by giving our state of every single TNA title race. There's 4 of them, and we have to fit them all in under 20 minutes, Nick, so let's just go ahead and get started. State of the Knockouts. So, the Knockouts division, the champions of this year, of 2014, we had Gail Kim for the first 16 days. Madison Rayne held on to it for 101 days. Angelina Love for 67, Gail Kim for another 90, Havoc for 49, and Taryn Terrell is your current reigning champion. So out of this group, who was the best champion of the year?
It's got to be Gail Kim. She's the only one that really did anything to elevate that title scene. And that's kind of sad given the talent that's held the belt this year, namely Havoc and Taryn Terrell. Obviously, Taryn didn't get a lot of time, but Havoc really should have been able to do a lot more with that belt. And I hope she gets an opportunity to do so next year. But as far as things go right now, definitely got to be Gail.
Yeah, I'm with you. Gail Kim, best champion overall, the most credible. She had the best matches as champion. Really the only one that I felt was champion worthy, pretty much the entire year. Which then leads us into worst champion of the year. For me, it was Angelina Love. I felt like they gave her the title too quickly. They basically put it on her as soon as she got back. And then her entire reign was just lame overall. Like, I wanted to see Gail Kim in there more. I was even willing to see what they could do with Madison Rayne, or really hopeful Taryn Terrell would get started earlier, but, it is what it is. But yeah, overall, the worst champion of the year for me was Angelina Love.
See, I think Angelina's reign had the benefit of at least being relevant with the return of the beautiful people. Madison Rayne, on the other hand, I don't think she was relevant at all, even with her being the main target of the beautiful people. I just don't think she really did anything with the belt to merit having it.
At least she was likable somewhat. Like, for me,
we'll agree to disagree on this one.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. She's down there though, for sure. All right, wins of the year. Overall, your win of the year for the division. What really made this division good for you?
My win would be the influx of new talent that we got with Havoc and Brittany. I'm glad TNA made an effort to at least bolster the ranks a little bit. They could have done a better job of adding some more bodies to the division, but Havoc and Brittany are definitely 2 good talents if you use them correctly. Now, with Brittany being gone, that's kind of wasted a little bit, and they definitely wasted Havoc, so they obviously didn't use them well. But I'm glad that they at least went that direction initially.
Yeah, I mean, well, the Brittany thing is still ongoing. I don't think anything definitive has been said about Brittany for sure. Moving into 2015, yeah, I think her status with the company is in question, but we'll have plenty of time to talk about that hopefully. But yeah, overall, my win of the year for the Knockouts division was Taryn Terrell, both coming back. Really that feud that she had with Gail Kim, and then capping it off with a win, and taking the title home. So having Taryn Terrell end the year as champion, I thought was a great move. That was definitely win of the year. Fail of the year though, fail of the year for me is just the fact that the Knockouts seem to have slipped further and further down the line of importance. Yeah, I know they brought back the beautiful people, and I think they were hoping the beautiful people were really going to kind of spark the division, but they didn't. They brought in Havoc, like you said. They also brought in Brittany, and I think they were hoping both of those two were going to do something, especially Havoc. They put the title on Havoc, but overall they didn't. It just didn't seem like the division had the right amount of focus and the right amount of talent to carry that importance. What about you? What was your fail?
I touched on it earlier, so I won't dwell on it too much, but for me, it was Madison Rain's title reign. Yeah, again, nothing done really, so.
Yeah. All right. State of the X Division. This year's champions was Chris Sabin for 21 days, Austin Aries for 38, Sonata for 130. Austin Aries won it back for 14, vacated it for option C. Samoa Joe won the title, held it for 97 days, vacated it because of injury, and then Low Key is your champion heading into 2015. So, best champion of the year for the X Division. It's got to go to Sonata, I think. Overall, Sonata, just longevity, he held it. As far as importance, it felt like it was important when he was holding it. No other guy really seemed to, show how important the X Division was. Whether it's Austin Aries, yeah, we can rave about his wrestling ability. His motivations were to get the X Division title so that he could turn it in for option C, which is what he did. Samoa Joe, similar vibe I got from him. Yeah, he wanted to, show importance of the division, but overall was more interested in working with Lashley and MVP and, the main event level players. So, but yeah, for me, best champion, Sonata. What do you think?
I completely agree with that. He far and away outshone everybody else that held that title this year. And I'm really glad that they gave him the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
It might have been a given with him being the face of the relationship with Russell 1, but even so, he definitely carried it well and did it well on two continents, both here in the States and in Japan when he'd go back. So yeah, definitely Sonata.
Yeah, and overall, he won the title while they're at the Kaizen outbreak in Tokyo, Japan, that show. So, that was really the start of this next venture that TNA has been going on with, as far as their connection with Wrestle One. So, yeah. Totally cool. Worst champion of the year, again, I'm gonna go with Samoa Joe and Austin Aries just because they didn't do any justice to the X Division.
Yeah, I kind of give Joe a pass since he kind of, when he was throwing down with Lashley, he would kind of paint it as the X Division is where it's at. Whereas Aries he didn't represent the X Division at all. When he had the belt, he was either stealing it from somebody else or he just wanted to turn it in.
Right.
And that really disappointed me.
Yeah. All right, so your X Division win of the year.
Again, Sonata, just carrying it as well as he did, defending it both on Impact and in Wrestle One. I think he did a really good job of that.
Yeah, my win of the year is just going to not to sound contradictory. But the win of the year was Samoa Joe basically getting back into the division with the idea of bringing it back to the levels that it once reached. And once Samoa Joe had the title, there was a lot of focus on the X Division. Not necessarily of the championship, not necessarily on Samoa Joe himself, but just everyone else. Low Key, Manic, the return of Homicide. It just seemed like there was a lot of new energy around the X Division, and it was all surrounding Samoa Joe winning the title. So, what about your fail of the year?
I think it's when Aries didn't turn down the cash in like I was really hoping he would. It just felt like more of the same stuff that's been going on since Option C was invented. And as much as Aries cast himself as the common denominator of greatness, he's fallen into a rut over the last year or so.
Yeah. My fail of the year is also going to go to Samoa Joe, for not fulfilling on that promise of making the X Division feel that more important, especially with him as champion. It always felt with Samoa Joe that it was kind of second fiddle. While all these guys were competing to get a chance to face Samoa Joe, it never seemed like Samoa Joe cared or Samoa Joe had that focus on the X Division. He always had his focus elsewhere, like fighting with Lashley or, showing that he can do anything or beat anyone. All right, state of the tag team division. This year's champions, we had the Bromans for the first 53 days of the year. They lost to the Wolves for a week, but then won again. So Bromans, another 56 days. I think that takes them to 109. The Wolves then got it back, 199 days. Revolution is now your champion. So best champion of the year for you?
Hands down the Wolves. No one else even comes close.
Yep. No argument here. The Wolves as champion really held the titles well, really put that focus on the importance of having a tag team division and having a tag team champion. So yeah, overall, totally stoked with them. Worst champion of the year? It's kind of hard for me to come up with a name, and I think you're the same way. It's definitely not the Bromance. I mean, I think a lot of people try to hate on the Bromance, saying the Bromance don't necessarily carry their weight or don't really add anything. But for me, the Bromance can't be in consideration here, just like Revolution can't be in consideration here, and obviously the Wolves can't be in consideration here. So yeah, none of the above. You're the same way?
Exactly. The Bromans, they're not on the same level as the Wolves, but they definitely held their own. They didn't do a disservice to the tag titles. They held them well. They were a good foil for the Wolves, and they're overall a very solid tag team. The tag team division, while it has been lackluster, it's only because there hasn't been a lot of teams in that division. Those that have been in there have done a really great job.
Yeah, so, and I guess we can kind of jump ahead. Fails of the year, just along those same lines. Not enough quality tag teams in the mix. While we did have the Hardys and 3D in there a little bit, overall you only have three tag team champions the entire year. Not a lot of competition overall. So yeah, that's my fail of the year. You're the same way?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if I really wish that 3D and the Hardys had stuck together as teams for the sake of having more teams in the division. But yeah, when they were in there, they had great matches, and I miss that. With that said, there hasn't really been a bad team contending for the titles yet.
No, not at all.
Like even Gunner and Storm, like they're not a great team, but even when they were together, they told a compelling story.
Right. Especially
with their breakup, and we had some great moments come out of that. So, yeah, those that were there, great job. It's just there wasn't enough.
What was your win of the year for the tag team division?
I think my win is just TNA giving the Wolves the uber push that they did with 3D and the Hardys coming in to build them up with that series of matches, ending in that Full Metal Mayhem match. It was one of the hardest pushes for a team that I've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing that they were put at that level. They've only been in TNA for a year, and at that point, it hadn't even been a full year yet. So, for them to go over two legendary tag teams, yeah, you're right. It was it was a fantastic move, almost an unbelievable move, but deserved for sure. For me, the win of the year was just the level of importance that TNA placed on the tag team division, the entire year. Yeah, they haven't put a lot of teams in there. There hasn't been a lot of real competition for the Wolves outside of the Bromans early on. But, overall, just everything they did with 3D and the Hardys, it was just fantastic. So, yeah, that's definitely my win of the year. Probably my favorite division as far as matches go.
I think I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah. So, moving on from that, the state of the World Heavyweight Championship. So this year's champions, Magnus, he held it for the first 99 days of the year. He lost to EY, who held the title for 70 days, Lashley for 132 days, and now your champion, Bobby Roode. Best champion of the year for you, Nick.
It's a harder choice than I initially thought it would be, because everybody brought something good to the table. With that said, I think Lashley presented the strongest case. And that's only because Roode hasn't really had time with the belt this year. Lashley, on the other hand, he came in like a hurricane, just bowled his way into the title picture, admittedly with MVP holding the reins a little bit. But once he got hold of that title, he just held on to it for dear life and just battered his way through everybody.
Right.
It's really impressive to watch.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm with you. Lashley is my champion of the year, but again, all four of these guys had something to offer. Whether it's Magnus and just our general hope for him. He was also, he was good in the ring. He was still good on the mic. booking was kind of odd, but overall, EY the same way. EY had he was the best fighting champion I think that we have seen in a long time outside of the Wolves, maybe. Just the fact that he was almost fighting every single week for the chance to continue holding on to the title. So, but Lashley, as far as his dominance, as far as the stories that were surrounding that title race, and the matches themselves, the guy deserves the best champion of the year for sure. Worst champion of the year, I'm gonna go with Magnus. And again, this is a really hard decision. We only had 4 to go off of, and everyone again brought a lot of good things with them. Magnus, though, for me, the storyline killed it. I really didn't like how they were handling his championship reign. Like the guy, for sure, we were all backing him as champion. We all wanted to see Magnus, what he can do as champion, especially going from 2013 to 2014. We were all really excited, and to me, just the booking surrounding his title reign didn't gel well. So yeah, that's my worst champion of the year. What about you, Nick?
From the moment I saw the choices, I haven't been able to decide on an answer. For me, it's a really close tie between Magnus and EY. It's hard for me to say because as much as we loved EY becoming champion, and as good as the whole fighting champion gimmick was, he didn't accomplish all that much.
Well, and he held the title.
That's true, but I don't know, because my general feeling about his title reign, EY's title reign, is influenced a lot by outside forces.
Yeah, right.
Basically the internet.
Right.
And I completely agree with you about Magnus's title reign being just undercut by booking. I don't hold it against Magnus so much. And I guess I don't hold it against EY. It's just both of them, a lot of balls were dropped with those two. So it's really hard for me to make a decision.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, overall, Magnus was made into like a Weasley's champion where he was cheating to win. And that's not what we wanted to see from Magnus, because Magnus can dominate in the right situation. EY, though, I'm open to the idea of him being the worst champion just because of how in character he was treated. He was treated like everyone doubted him, and everyone was like, this isn't a real title reign. That's how it felt the entire time, like his feud with MVP. So, it wasn't just like this underdog against like an authority type character. It was your world heavyweight champion being constantly doubted and made to look bad. So yeah, I can kind of see that as well. And yes, the internet hate that EY got as champion could add into that.
Yeah.
All right. So overall, as far as the World Heavyweight Championship division goes, the title races go, what was your win of the year?
My win, it's weird because it's not even directly centered on a champion, but rather on MVP. The whole reason for his heel turn was to get that title for himself, and then he suffered that injury. My win, as far as that goes, is how he turned that whole potential fall from grace into a positive when he became Lashley's hype man, and when he became the brains behind the Braun, so to speak.
Yeah, right.
I just really like how that angle turned out.
Yeah, no, that's a good example of how TNA could take a negative and turn it into a positive. So yeah, I think that's a good thing. For me, it was EY basically. During that time, we were all expecting MVP to come in and take the title, and that seemed to be how the stories were going. Right before he got injured. So when he was injured and EY took over, just the fact that EY was your champion, I thought it was just fantastic. It was a good story that they could have told better, his entire reign, but and just the fact that he was a fighting champion, that despite the doubt and despite the internet hate, he still was there showing up and fighting, and overall his ring work was great that entire time. So Fails of the year for me, the fact that Magnus wasn't better as champion. Like, again, we had a lot of hope for this guy entering into 2014, and the fact that his title, him holding the title, wasn't necessarily the major part of the story. The major part of the story at the time was AJ Styles and Dixie Carter, or Dixie Carter and MVP. It always seemed like he wasn't necessarily the top guy. I don't know. So I don't know. But Magnus not being better as champion was a disappointment for me. What about you? What was your fail of the year?
My fail is EY's reign being overshadowed by basically dicks in the IWC. It's that storyline was one that I really wanted to enjoy.
Right.
I came the closest to marking out that I've ever come, at least in regards to TNA this year, when EY took the title. And that should have been a great story being told, but it just seemed like everybody on the internet was just tearing it down, and the comparisons to Daniel Bryan were what killed me. Because, like, there are parallels to be had there. Like, shaggy guy, underdog, comes back from the brink of failure and triumphs. But, like, there are so many things that make EY his own guy, that make his story his own story. And the fact that so many people were dogging on it, it just ruined my enjoyment of the story, because it was so pervasive and so overbearing that it was just a really bad situation. And it didn't really help that TNA wasn't telling the compelling story that it could have told with EY.
Right.
So
yeah, they could have done a better job with the whole EY title ring. At the same time, like, the big beef that I had with the IWC over this like his entire reign was the fact that, at that point, they were no longer doing live shows, I think. So, like, a lot of this stuff was taped a month or half a month in advance before it aired on TV, which, while, it was happening right around the same time as far as on television as the Daniel Bryan run, it was taped so far in advance that, like the IWC was saying that TNA was copying WWE, but realistically, based on timelines, you could have the equal opposite side of that. So,
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. All right, so overall, though, TNA had a good year, I think. You agree with that? For
sure. Yeah, they definitely had their ups and downs, but there are a lot of positives to be drawn from this year.
That's all the time we have for this conversation. We'll be continuing this conversation on TNAMecca.com. So join us there. We'll be reading and responding to all your comments all day. Once again, this is Fans Talk TNA. Has been brought to you by TNA Mecca and FTWPodcast.com. For Nick, this is Garvin saying goodbye. We'll see you again first thing next Wednesday here on Fans Talk TNA. Have a great week and Happy New Year.